Okay, we meet Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. She's a member of Homeland Security Committee, and she chairs the panel's subcommittee on transportation security and infrastructure protection. Representative Ron Paul is a Republican of Texas, member of the International Relations Committee. He was a flight surgeon in the Air Force and OBGYN in civilian life. And Ben Stein, the economist, attorney, former presidential speechwriter, columnist with Fortune magazine. Representative Lee, were you satisfied with the president's statement today, and do you think we're now getting on top of things?
Absolutely, Larry. I believe the president has always been on top of this issue of securing the homeland. It is not a partisan issue. It's not a Democratic issue or Republican issue. And he stood today and indicated that we now are moving forward on some of the items that we've already done, improving our security and our screening, looking to ensure that we are going after the terrorists who want to come after us, finding al-Qaeda wherever it is, and yes, doing an inventory and an investigation on what happened and why. But I believe that there are several issues that we have to address. And one of them is the serious stovepiping of intelligence, communicating information that could have prevented this individual from boarding this plane, Flight 253.
Congressman Paul, is politics outside the door here?
Well, I don't know what, depends on your definition of politics. If you disagree, I guess it's political. But if you agree, then it isn't. But no, the answer to your first question, you know, this statement wasn't all that satisfactory to me, sort of putting the pressure on the people. If we are just more vigilant, it seems to me that the people who had the responsibility in that embassy should have been more vigilant. You know, we're right now spending $75 billion for intelligence gathering. And look at what we have. We had FBI agents telling us about the pilots that were flying but not landing an airplane before 9/11. And here we have this incident. So I would say we come up way short, and I think there's a fundamental flaw in the system, and that is government's incapable of doing it. Everything else in this country, all the businesses and factories and hotels and everything, they're protected by the owners and by private security. But all of a sudden, if you own an airplane, you have to depend on the bureaucracy and $75 billion worth of intelligence gathering, and all of a sudden we're all going to be safe as long as we're alert and tell everybody what's going on.
But that governments are responsible to do that, Ben, aren't they? We can't have private industry run our security system.
Governments are totally responsible. I was stunned at what President Obama said today. I mean, it was as if someone had said after Pearl Harbor, okay, we all got to be vigilant against the Japanese and the Germans. It's the government's job to protect us. We're paying a fortune in tax and debt to have them do it. They're not taking it seriously. They're being like bureaucrats and not really just doing 9-to-5 work and not getting the job done. Look, this is a war. We've said it over and over again. It's not a war against Islam, but it is a war against terrorists. We know a lot about them. It's not getting shared. I think you could, I'm not a stockholder of IBM, but I think you could give this job to IBM, and in about a month, they could come up with a system in which there'd be little dots going off on 1 million different people's desks in the bureaucracy if somebody like this Nigerian guy was trying to get on an airplane. Let's get to work on it like we mean it. Like we.
All right. Congresswoman Lee, you want to respond to that?
I do, frankly. We are getting to work. We have been getting to work, but there are problems. And frankly, this needs to be addressed by Congress and by the administration. The stovepiping that I was suggesting is a very obvious of this individual who had family members who notified our embassy in Nigeria, and that information was not transmitted anywhere else until Homeland Security. It's obvious that Homeland Security should be the focal point and the key in terms of acting on any threat to the homeland. That means that the information that we received, that was a viable behavioral assessment that you could have made on this individual. He went to Yemen. He has become radicalized. His family has called. And therefore, there was a basis of acting. We don't need to talk about $75 billion. And by the way, my friends on the other side of the aisle have voted against aviation security funding and also explosives funding. But what the president can do, added, Larry, what I would suggest that he do, is to make a recess appointment to the individual that is being held up as the TSA administrator by a Republican senator. Leadership is important in this aspect. So I believe the government is responsible. I take responsibility, and we have a way to solve the problem.
Larry, we don't need.
I got to get a break. And hold on. I got to get a break. Hold it, Ben. Ben, hold it. I got to get a break. We'll have Ben and Ron respond right after this.